functional medicine coach and founder of Limitless, the leading establishment in functional medicine and fitness in Hong Kong. She's set to host an exclusive workshop on the topic of hacking hormones for weight loss. And if you have struggled with eating clean and training hard with little results, this insightful session is for you. Drawing from over 15 years of experience, Ms. Yap will delve into nutritional and lifestyle medicine strategies for sustainable and long-term fat loss. I'm actually super excited about this session because Trish is actually my go-to person for anything health and fitness related questions. And she's always learning, and I really admire that with her busy schedule, she's always going somewhere to get the next master degree or the next certification in all things health and wellness, and I don't know how she does it. And at the same time, I want to take this opportunity to mention that this talk stage is sponsored by Zoop. Zoop is the first AI-powered social commerce platform enabling everyone to achieve longevity and super levels of health by inspiring, connecting, and incentivizing all the key stakeholders, including passionate wellness community, verified experts, and curated product vendors. Our mission is to facilitate super health by leveraging the power of democratized knowledge. We believe that everybody deserves access to reliable, evidence-based information that can help them lead their best and healthiest lives. Our platform includes a wide range of topics, including nutrition, exercise, mental health, and lifestyle choices. And by bringing together this diverse community, we strive to empower individuals with the knowledge they need to make informed decisions about their health. And at this talk stage, we want to give you just a teaser of what kind of discussions we want to bring on our platform in the future. And we hope that you will enjoy it. If you're a health expert trying to build your practice online or a product brand owner looking to expand your exposure, please come talk to us at booth C27 and C29. And please stay tuned as we're launching our beta app next month. Thank you, and welcome, Trish.
Thanks, Candice. So, I work with a range of different people, male, female, young adolescents, all the way through to my oldest client, who was actually 93, unfortunately passed away a while ago. However, I have a few stories to tell. I'll tell you the story of Kimberly, who was 24, and she's been competing in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for 10 years. She was on multiple weight cuts through her life, and she came to me with no period, 24 years old. And my 55-year-old client, who actually went through an 8-month training program, and she spent $80,000. She was training 5 times a week, and in 8 months, she lost only 1.5 kilos. She blew her knee up, and she was really frustrated. And then there's my 13-time world champion, who very dear to me, but he came to me with chronic fatigue and a little loss in libido, which I was a little bit worried about, right? And he was injured from neck all the way down to toe, and I'm not joking. And he's a 13-time world champion in jiu-jitsu. And his testosterone levels were really low. So all of these people actually have one thing in common. They want to perform every day, optimally, but they're also a little bit vain, as we all are, and they're looking to lose fat. So the question I always ask them is, this is the very first thing that I do. The absence of disease does not necessarily indicate the presence of health. So when somebody is not sick, but they're not actually optimally healthy either, right? What's this gray zone? So you're not at a doctor, but you don't feel great. Your doctor says you're fine. I've run blood tests. You're okay. It's all in your head. But you know that there's something different. So the question that no one asks actually is your body actually ready to lose fat? And this is the one thing that all my clients seem to have in common. And I always focus on something called a health bank account. right? So we're all familiar with bank accounts. Everybody hopefully has one, unless you're Carrie Lam. And so our bank account could be something that we've inherited, okay, when we're young, right? But through our lives, we make withdrawals as we do make deposits. So today, if you think about your bank account as a health bank account, what have you been doing to make those deposits in? But what more importantly have you been doing to take withdrawals out? And where do you stand today? For the most part, the people that I work with they have barely enough in their bank account for savings. So I say fat loss is actually a luxury item. Think about the handbag that you want, ladies. Think about, the next watch that you like or the car that you want to buy, okay? If you are buying this on a credit card, you have to pay interest. And that is what happens when you go in for fat loss, but you're not ready for it. You're purchasing fat loss on a credit card. And when you're paying those interest payments back, that comes back in slower metabolism, increased weight, right? Inability to recover properly, disturbed sleep. And then you're going to say, all my hormones are completely imbalanced. But that's because you weren't ready to lose fat in the first place. So this is what I wrote in about 3 minutes, and there's a lot more that I could have a Bible on this. So it's a small font because the point here is that there are so many things that relate to whether or not your body is ready to lose fat, whether that is chronic fatigue, an irregular menstrual cycle, whether that's an inability to have energy during the day to do the things that you want to do, whether that's relying on caffeine, right? So if today you're going, give me that IV drip, guys, that's not good, okay? If you've gone through big life events, pregnancy, miscarriage, divorce, separation, all those things, they all have an impact on your health, whether you know it or not. So the more of these things that pertain to you, the more you need to take a step back and say, am I actually ready to lose fat? So all this to say is that before you embark on buying luxury items like fat loss, you need to focus on the basics first, and that is health at the cellular level. If your body is a team or multiple teams in a big organization, okay, all these teams need to be able to talk to each other. If they can't talk to each other, you have dysfunction, right? Hormones at the end of the day are messages. They're chemical messages that the body uses to tell the body exactly what to do, right? It's not necessarily what you want to tell it. It's what your body is trying to do to survive. So if these messages aren't heard, or the wrong message, or they're messages that scream, hey, I need help, you're going to have something called hormonal dysfunction. So focusing on optimal health is first and foremost the one thing that you need to do before you embark on fat loss. And in fact, if all you're doing is trying to survive right now, think about a country in war. We all know this one right now at this moment. Okay, how are they thriving? There's no GDP in a country in war. So once there's peace, once there's balance, there's ability to thrive. And when you can thrive, actually fat loss is almost accidental. So if you think about your health bank account and you think about your state of where you are at the moment, okay, are you surviving or are you thriving? This is going to dictate what your brain tells your body. So what messages are you sending your body just right now? So when it comes to hormones, there's thousands of them. Okay, I spend a lot of time reading loads of studies on different hormones. It's all fascinating, but nobody can understand it. But really, it doesn't have to be this overwhelming. Whether it's down-regulating neuropeptide Y, balancing testosterone, or in relation to your other steroid hormones, whether you're looking at your looking at leptin dysregulation, all these big words. In fact, it's really simple. These are the 5 different things that you need to do in order to balance your hormones. And in fact, these are just different hacks. So, number 1, restoring gut health does a lot of things. Number 2, looking at restorative recovery. Number 3, balancing blood sugar. Number 4, improving your body composition. And number 5, which I always find the hardest, is managing stress. So, coming into the gut, first and foremost, is at the very base of what's happening. Because if your gut is not working, right, think about the food that you eat. So, my client who spent $80,000 in 6 months on different meal plans, on a crazy training program, she was eating clean, definitely, right? But none of these were actually translating to optimal health or fat loss for her. And why is that? It's because if you can't digest and absorb the food, you're not necessarily getting those nutrients. And even then, if you're not assimilating those nutrients from the bloodstream to the cells, you're not actually getting that either. So the gut is connected not just to the brain, but also it's connected to our ability to regulate our metabolism. Your thyroid hormones are converted in the gut, and your thyroid is responsible for your metabolism. Your skin, hair, nails, right? Those very much connected to the gut. In fact, your skin actually has a microbiome as well. The lung also has a microbiome, which is why in 2021, there was a great study that linked the gut microbiome to the efficacy of the flu vaccine as well as your risk of getting COVID. Right? The gut, it also helps you in something called nutrient partitioning. So that's how your body decides what calories go to muscle and what calories go to fat. And not only that, the gut is where 70% of your immune system sits. So you're not actually what you eat. You're what you can digest, absorb, and then assimilate. So what damages the gut? I'm going to leave you to read the childhood factors because, well, that's done and that's in the past. We're done with that. Okay. But effectively, lifestyle, food, and environment. Right? Chronic stress, poor sleep, not having a gallbladder, okay, overtraining or physical activity. With my jiu-jitsu and MMA athletes, for them that's concussion, can actually change your gut microbiome. Okay, getting a blow to the head is a big one. Food choices, having a lot of processed food, refined carbohydrates, alcohol, that can seriously damage your gut microbiome, as well as your environment, both what you put into your body and the environment around you. So this is just a really quick example of one of the tests that I do, but when I like working with numbers because a lot of people don't actually pay attention until I throw a number out at them. And when I say that someone may have an inability to digest and absorb their food, they go, yeah, sure, no problem. When I put numbers in front of them, they're like, oh my God, that's all in the red. Why? And this is an example of a GI map, which is a deep dive test into your intestinal health markers. And it shows me whether or not you're able to digest fat, whether you have an insult to the ability to absorb nutrients from the small intestine to your bloodstream, right? And it also tells me a lot about the immune system. So this person has done quite a lot of damage through his life. He's a 60-year-old guy who spent about 30 years eating and drinking. And he came to me basically with an inability to lose weight, no matter how hard he tried. He actually trains something like 12 times a week in his retirement, and we've had to slow things down and focus a little bit more on optimal health. So, all this said, the first hack that you can do is one of my favorite hacks because this kills about four birds with one stone, and it's the 5, 10, 15, 20. And what this is a 5 deep diaphragmatic breaths at every single mealtime, 10 seconds between each mouthful, which is why I like having food sharing with a friend. And 15 minutes minimum to eat your meals, because number one, if you are vacuuming down that food, you are not digesting it. And a 20-minute walk after. So 5 breaths, 10 seconds between every mouthful or 10 chews, 15 minutes minimum to eat your food, and a 20-second walk after. That's going to, 1, improve digestion, 2, tell your body to store more calories into muscle as opposed to fat, right? 3, decreases inflammation, and 4, if you do it with a friend, you're getting that social time as well, which has been shown to also decrease inflammation. Hack 2, and you've heard this in the other talk, you need to get your dietary fiber in. So carbohydrates are key, and in fact, when it comes to keeping the trillions of bacteria in your gut happy and healthy, you in fact need about 22 different fruits, seeds, nuts, vegetables a week, which I know it's really difficult. So all I can say is eat the rainbow, right? Use herbs, use different seeds, add that little crunch to your vegetables, right? When you cook your vegetables, try to have a mix of vegetables. Add a little bit of sesame seeds on top, some herbs. You'll be surprised how maybe if you just think about it and prepare, that it's actually not as hard and daunting as you think. So why is dietary fiber important? In fact, a study done in 2015 on your gut microbiome showed that having low commensals, which is having a very low diversity in gut bacteria, is directly related to weight gain. Okay? And this is actually called the gelding theory. So hack 3, really simple. To get your stomach acid going in the morning, to hydrate, try this. Glass of water, half a lime, chuck in a little bit of colored pink Himalayan salt, and you know what? Add in some omega-3 fish oil. Because omega-3 fish oil is not only anti-inflammatory, it helps you to balance your omega-3 to 6. So if you are eating processed foods or refined carbohydrates, that's going to help balance out your omega-3 to 6 ratios. And not only that, right? For guys especially, they love these words. Fish oil is anabolic. So it will also help towards testosterone production. So coming towards hack 4, when it comes to restoring blood sugar, or actually when it comes to losing fat, or any diet in particular, right? Any diet that you see on social media, any diet that your friends embark on, right? A lot of the advice that as a nutritionist that we give all comes back to one thing: blood sugar management. So how do we help with blood sugar management? I always find that most people start off the day actually right, or maybe they skip breakfast. They always have a good lunch, and what happens at dinner? It's a total shit show, right? Majority of calories are eaten in the evening, or they're eaten because during the day you've kind of regulated yourself. So I like using harihachibu, which means eat until you're 80% full, or leave something on your plate. Or you know what? Give it to your partner. Hack 5. This is the most unsexy, most boring advice that every nutritionist should be giving. Eat real food. So before you even embark on any dietary philosophy like ketogenic diets, carnivore diets, low-carb diets, low-fat diets, etc., why don't we just try eating real food? Super boring, but it's true. So like me, if you're running to Asia World Expo and you haven't had breakfast and you're trying to go through Central Market looking for something that's real food, and you're really, really tempted to have that bagel, right? I did end up with real food. Mike can attest to that. But you've got to try really hard to make sure if manna changed it, exchange it. Because in fact, a 2017 study done on weight loss versus, in a sense of calories versus nutrient quality, nutrient quality actually trumped counting of calories. And in a very recent study that I pulled out in actually this year, a psychology study, it said that the counting of calories actually caused psychological damage, which meant that any subsequent dieting would increase that your risk of putting on weight after. So hack 6. This is one of my favorite health tech tools that I really like using, that is actually available to everybody to use with caution, because you should do this with a qualified nutrition coach or nutritionist. But when it comes to blood sugar, it truly is the small hinge that swings big doors to fat loss. And I really like something called CGM, which is continuous glucose monitoring. So it's a little patch that you put on the back of your arm. There's a tiny little needle on it. You won't see it. You won't even feel it. Okay? And it connects to your smartphone. And what it does is it monitors blood sugar every 5 seconds. So every 5 seconds it takes a reading, and you can download that reading onto your iPhone. And what you get is a little graph of a 24-hour monitor of your blood sugar. So this graph is one of my favorite graphs, because this is actually a husband and wife couple who ate exactly the same thing over the course of a weekend. And they actually are quite, they're both athletic in a way. She does a lot of yoga, Pilates. He does a lot of CrossFit. And they both ate, for lunchtime, they ate sweet potato, chicken, and green vegetables. And at night, they had a meat and potato dinner. What we saw on the continuous blood sugar monitors was that they had extremely different blood sugar responses to exactly the same food, which means that your carbohydrate tolerance, or what your body likes in terms of carbohydrates, is not just governed by quantity or GI. Because sweet potato is actually pretty good. We all think that that's a great health food that bodybuilders have. But for the female, who's the graph at the top, sweet potato hated her. She's actually of Korean descent, and when we switched her carbohydrate source to rice, that blood sugar response came down. He actually suffered from a very simple equation of just not eating enough. And he was actually, they're both on intermittent fasting, where they fasted in the morning. For him and her, it kind of suited them, but what they were actually doing was they're having a much bigger meal at night. So by taking them to 3 meals a day instead of 2 big ones, that actually also helped regulate her blood sugar. As you can see for him, his blood sugar really redlined at night. And that told me that he wasn't actually recovering enough. So that came down to, at night, he just wasn't eating sufficient amounts of food. Also, he was actually pretty overtrained. So CGM. Hack 7. This is the basics of something called fat oxidation. It's a chemical process, which means that you take fats out of cell and you utilize it. However, in order to do that, you need water, which is what brings that fat out of the fat cell. You need magnesium, carnitine, right? Magnesium is the, I'm going to get this wrong. Carnitine is the bus, magnesium is the driver of that. And actually need a little bit of resistance training. Because at the end of the day, you need something called progressive overload, 1, to adapt to, but 2, to actually utilize that energy. So before we kind of get to the last couple of hacks, the biggest hack that I can give you today is actually something called a psychological shift in mindset. And that is from body weight through to body composition. This is a collection of DEXA scans. So they are x-rays of different women at different body weights. And you can see that they have different body compositions. So the percentage number at the bottom is your body fat percentage. So you can see someone who was quite light at 59 kilos. She actually had about 34% body fat. The girl at 61 kilos actually was 41% body fat. Right? But that is because she didn't have sufficient muscle, right? Even though she's light. So she's what we call skinny fat, which is often quite the Asian, body type. The girl on the right is actually also Asian, right? But she was heavier. And she also suffered a lot from body image issues. But when we DEXA'd her, she was at 24% body fat. So she was like, what? But I look big. So again, it's perception, but why body composition is important is, number one, having more muscles means that your nutrient partitioning, i.e. the decision that your body makes to store calories as fat versus muscle, is improved. Number two, muscle is what takes you into old age. So particularly for women, as you hit menopause, you suffer from something called sarcopenia, which is the age-related loss of muscle. Right? And when that happens, you lose about 1.5% of your muscle every single year. So having a lot of muscle will actually take you through life, which will also prevent things like fragility fractures later on. Secondly, as I mentioned in the blood sugar example, recovery was actually one of the things that my clients didn't do. And really, when it comes to fat loss, recovery, honestly, is one of the most underused and misunderstood tools in a fat loss game. So why is recovery important? We have two organs that sit on the top of our kidneys, and they're kind of triangular shaped, and they're called adrenals. And they are actually responsible for making your estrogen, making testosterone, and making your stress hormone, cortisol, amongst other hormones. Okay? And the adrenals are something that's very, very important when it comes to recovery. So take a photo of that. I'm going to skip over that. The thing is, we often see insulin resistance or diabetes is one of the top 3 chronic diseases in Hong Kong and in China. Right? And this often starts with something called insulin resistance. So if you have ever been told that you're pre-diabetic, okay, you most likely have severe insulin resistance. And what this means is that cells need to take up energy. So when you eat whatever you're eating, right, those carbohydrates get broken down into glucose, and they have to be uptaken by the body. Your pancreas produces insulin, which helps glucose to be shifted to muscle or to fat. However, when it comes to insulin resistance, we all think an inability to manage our blood sugar, right? But cortisol and your adrenals has a big part to play. So either you can whack out your blood sugar through nutrition, either you are under-recovered, right, or you're really pushing your body to a point where you're also increasing your levels of cortisol, which is stress hormone. Did you know that cortisol increases blood sugar too? So in a situation where, from a dietary perspective, you're eating a lot of refined carbohydrates that spike your blood sugar, and you're not recovering well, or you're maybe excessively doing something, or you're excessively stressed, right? Cortisol is a hormone that gets produced even in the perception of stress. So there's a fantastic book called Why Zebras Don't Get Ulcers, and the summary of that is, even with the perception of stress, causes adrenals to release cortisol. So you can spike your blood sugar many different ways. And when you're doing it in both, right, that's going to cause blood sugar dysregulation. That's going to have high levels of cortisol, high levels of insulin, and that's going to lead more towards something called insulin resistance. So what do we do to combat that? The biggest thing with recovery is restorative sleep. And I don't mean just sleeping. So a lot of people sleep, that's good, but you need deep sleep and you need REM sleep in optimal amounts. So what is good quality sleep? Number 1, you fall asleep within 15 minutes. Number 2, you're sleeping a minimum of 7 to 8 hours. Number 3, you wake up with energy. Number 4, you wake up without an alarm. So if you're not ticking that, that means good quality sleep is something you need to focus on. But how do we do that? A lot of people think about bedtime routines. You know, what is your bedtime routine before I sleep, right? In fact, good quality sleep starts when you wake up. So number 1, the first thing you need to get good quality sleep is a signal to your body that it should prepare for sleep later on in the day. So getting sunlight into your eyes, right, first thing in the morning is fantastic. Henceforth, walking to work, not underground, is a good thing to do. The skin of our eyelids are the thinnest skin in our body for a reason. Number 2, getting breakfast in. So out of the 7 years I've been blood glucose monitoring people, the one common thing is that they either have the wrong breakfast or they don't eat breakfast. So start your breakfast off with a high protein, high fat. And number 3, exercise. Not at night, but during the day. So when it comes to recovery, and you're not focused on sleep, and you also apply chronic stress, which, remember, I put that as the last thing because that is the most difficult thing to do, is to manage stress, right? But when you combine the two, that becomes what I call the perfect storm. So, thing is, stress changes how you sleep, and sleep changes what you choose to eat. Who has woken up from a big night out or a lot of overtime burning the midnight oil, and the first thing you kind of think of is like, I really need comfort food, okay? Second last hack. I promise I'm going to get through this really quickly. Hack 9. Who schedules in health? So if you're Woo! So if you're not scheduling in your health or your self-care, okay, you're not prioritizing it. So we schedule calls in with our therapists, we schedule work meetings, we schedule dinners with our friends, but we're not scheduling health. So invest today, otherwise you're going to be spending a shitload more money tomorrow. And I can tell you from experience, insurance companies, they're assholes. All right, and the very last one, which I want to leave with you, is what I call the elephant in the room, okay? And that is chronic stress. So a lot of this is well and good. We all know what we should be doing. But in fact, why can't we do what we know what we should be doing? And a lot of it comes back to habits, identity, who you are, and your psychological state of mind. Right? So I challenge you this. If you've tried to do all of this before and you've not done it, think on an emotional and mental level, what is happening? And your very last hack, guys, is, because it's High Rocks and everybody's going to go out to party later, okay? Your emergency response plan. So if you manage 80% of the time being healthy, right, this is your 20% of the time. We all love sugar, and I'm a mom, so I need alcohol. And my partner is French, so I need a lot more alcohol. When it comes to that, I apply a 1-to-1 ratio. If you're married to a French man, apply a 1-to-2 ratio. Alcohol to water, 1-to-1. Sugar and exercise, 1-to-2. Again, with the French, that 2 comprises of lifting heavy weight and boxing, so you don't punch them in the face. And I'm going to leave you with the biggest hormonal disruptors. 3 things: alcohol, sugar, processed food, and gluten. And then the disclaimer. It's not just the overconsumption, it's the and/or regular. So regular and/or overconsumption of 4 things. So what I challenge you, secondly, after what's your elephant in the room, is today, think about your decision-making process. Every decision you make either takes you closer to optimal health or further away from it. Thank you. Does anyone have any questions? Awesome. I'll let you go. If you want to follow us, we are. I'll bring it back up to the front slide. So on the Limitless Health Instagram and Facebook, we actually put a lot of hacking our hormones posts. It is clearly not me because I'm totally not crap on social media, but we do a lot of reels and we do a lot of advice on nutrition training and functional medicine and lifestyle medicine. So follow us if you want, and thank you.
Thank you, Trish. And I hope that by now you guys understand why Trish is my go-to person when it comes to all things health and nutrition. And on her point, why you need to schedule health into your busy schedule is because going to a verified expert for a recommendation is very important, because Google simply will make you a little bit more confused, and some of the crap all going through on social media is basically just not reliable if they're not verified. So and that's why we're building Zoop, and we're launching Zoop platform next month, and stay tuned for a lot more. Right now I can't tell you too much, but please follow us on social media, and also come to our booth on C27 and 29 if you're interested to know more. So next up, it's going to be in an hour and 15 minutes. It's at 3:15. It's going to be Denise Tam, who is a 2 times cancer fighter and turned